Good one. Right. Oh, the wrong thing. Turn off the video so you have to watch me the entire time. Anyway, hey, how's it going? Sorry I'm a little late. Okay, hi everybody. If you're watching at home on YouTube or on Zoom, my name is Robert Scrove. I'm the owner of Dallas Design Sprints, and this is number 2 of 4 virtual lightning decision jams we're doing on the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's emphasis is going to be about education and kind of looking at it from the lens of that. And every so often, I'll be having my son come up and say hi.
Hello, my name is Alden, and I also have a podcast and a YouTube channel.
Yes, you do.
And it's called Alden's Amazing Roblox Review, so you should go check it out.
Okay, now can I get back to my webinar?
Yes.
Okay, good. See you. Hey, don't start. Okay. Right. So the way this works is, if you want to be part of the panelist side, meaning if you want to be on this side where you can, people can see your video and also hear you talk, then all you have to do is raise your hand in Zoom, and I'll bring you in for introductions. We'll have a handful of people that will do that. If you haven't joined the mural that we're going to be working off of, I will put that into Zoom right now, as well as on YouTube, so that you can follow along or participate if you'd like to. I'll also be showing it on my side as a part of a screen share. So I have that saved. Let me go ahead and start adding people into the Zoom that have raised their hands. So we have 5 people. Let's see here. First one I'll bring in is Mardea Garti. She should be showing up shortly. We got Gia. I like saying Gia more than Gisela. Gia is better. There's going to be Alex. Hang on, I'm just waiting for Zoom to refresh a little bit. We have Susanna. We have 2 Susannas. We have Tomas. Hey, right. And I wonder which. We have 2. That's right. We have Samantha and Susanna. Hang on. Do one more. And we got Ed Fernandez raising their hand. It's starting to become a party. Hang on. 1 second. I think that should be good. Tomas, I can see you. You're larger than life over there. you're taking up literally the whole screen. Hang on. Let's see. Promoting the childers to panelists. Okay. I think we are good. Right. So let's do a round of introductions while I'm going into things. For those of you who are in chat, feel free to say where you are coming in from, what country, what city, what place. I am here in Dallas, Texas. Mardea, since you were the first person that I added, why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're coming from and what you're all about.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, my name is Mardea. I am based in Ireland, Dublin. So I'm a workshop entrepreneur. So that's a new name for me. So I run a design sprint workshop. So I'm already starting as a freelancer called idesignGroup.ie. So part of the community of design sprints. So I regard myself as ladies or women in design sprint. So that's me.
Very cool. All right, and let me see. I'm going to go to, thank you for that, Mardea. And next up is Gia. Hello, Gia.
Hello, hi. We've known each other so okay.
How's it going?
Good. Surviving here in Switzerland. Now using more lightning decision jams more than ever. Finally, I get to do them.
Finally. It took a pandemic to get there, but we're finally here.
Pretty much. So yeah, I am now finally working as a product manager and working also with the product design, hearing aids and mobile apps. And yeah, I got the bug of design thinking, design sprints, and haven't left it then.
Cool.
That's it.
As always, I'm glad you're here and you're not on a train and you're not in transit.
Yes,
you're actually on location with an actual link.
Now it's easier.
Cool. All right. Tomas, I have to talk to you because you're probably one of the people on the panel that has been, it's probably safe to say that you've been beyond busy this past month or so. So tell everyone where you are at and what you're all about.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Tomás. I'm from Brazil in the north. I'm a pharmacist. I have companies in healthcare area. One is a clinical laboratory, and the other one is a doctor offices. We now are under lockdown state, and our company is just open for emergencies, and that's very hard for us.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like. It's just got to be. You're just going it day by day. So
Yeah.
glad you're here, though. We'll try and make the really good use of your time. Let's see. We got. Let's go to Alexander Buck. I think Alex Buck.
Alexander, both is fine. Both
Yeah.
is fine, Rob. Thanks for having me. I'm a fan of the Global Virtual Design Sprint and of course of this Corona focus that we have right now. Thanks, Rob, that you did that shift again. I'm happy to hear, happy to contribute. I'm a design sprint, virtual design sprint facilitator myself. And yeah, try to sell virtual design sprints, and recently shifted from being a startup founder, and the startup was put on hold due to the crisis, to make virtual design sprints my new business home, and happy to have done so.
Cool. And I hope it's very lucrative for you.
Let's work it out.
Yes. Speaking of virtual design sprints and somebody that that you know of, let's move it over to Lisa Weinsberger. Well, Lisa, where are you coming in from?
I'm coming from Vienna, Austria, from my home, obviously, like all of us.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've been an on-site innovation facilitator and design sprint facilitator from some years now. And yeah, since last year, proud GVDS family member. And yeah, happy to be here.
Cool. Thank you for that. Susanna, the Imagine woman. Always imagining up above you. So,
hi, Tomas.
hey.
Tomas and I were on a GVDS team together. My name is Susanna Childers. I'm coming from outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm a facilitator. I have a company called AHA. So we're all about imagining possibilities and helping people create their future. So I've done loads of in-person facilitation, and for the past year, I guess my timing was fortuitous to ramp up my virtual facilitation game. So I've been participating in lots of lightning decision jams and the one GVDS, looking forward to the next one coming up. So I've just taken all the opportunities I can to learn.
Cool. And I'm trying to add your daughter in, Samantha, but for some reason the panelist isn't sticking. Like I can't seem to add her in.
Yeah, my daughter, so my daughter Samantha, I'll introduce her, is in the house too. She is a teacher. So when I saw this was around education, I thought it would be a good introduction for her and also bring the voice of a teacher into the conversation to see what she does. She teaches high school and they've been out for 2 weeks, and she had to instantly pivot to teaching online and finding ways to make it happen. So
yep. My own son's using
here, so.
my own son's using Seesaw right now, and he's basically collaborating with a teacher. They're sending each other audio notes back and forth, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're finding ways all over the place, all over the world.
There's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
So as long as she has access to the mural, I think we're in good shape. And Julia, just for reference, I'm trying to add you as a panelist as well. Julia Wang is somebody that was on that side, so I'm still trying to add you in. Maybe Mural's not being very nice about it, but we'll work it out. There you go. Now you're in. Let's see. We got Ed Fernandez. Ed, where are you coming in from? And let us know what you're all about. Yes, no? I think you're muted. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted. Okay, I'll come back to you. Julia, you're back on the panelist side. Where are you calling in from? What are you all about? Let us know.
Yeah, sure. I'm calling from Mountain View, California. The reason why, this is my first session, so like probably gonna break a lot of rules, but the reason why I joined is because I'm really thinking about running a remote brainstorming design/design sprint remotely. I've done a lot of in-person design sprints, but never done it remotely. So I want to see like how this works.
All right, well, strap in.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that like shocking, but it'll be interesting for you. How about that?
Yes, thank
Since
you.
you're new to it, feel free to ask questions in the chat or at logical breaks when we go through this. The one thing that you'll notice about this process is that it's going to go fairly quickly. It'll go from like state to state without much discussion. So that's kind of throws people off at first, but that's something you'll probably experience in the process. But we usually make enough time for conversation towards the end, or at least at logical points where it makes sense to do so.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. And Ed, I got your message about the microphone not working. That's perfectly fine. You can just hang out with us on the panelist side because we're the cool kids. No, I'm kidding. Something like that. Okay, so let me go ahead and start sharing my screen so that you can see what I'm seeing. We will probably take until this whole entire process takes about 60 minutes, leaving some time for discussion. If at any point you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the chat. And for those on the panelist side, you are more than welcome to speak up if suddenly something goes wrong or if you have a break of some type. We'll work it out. But let me go ahead and start the sharing on my side. We'll get this ball rolling. There you go. Right. So what you should be seeing on my share is the 4th Global Virtual Design Sprint, the Education Vldj. And through the email that I'd sent last night, it looks like people have already kind of gone the route of putting in some educational questions, the how might we questions about education in advance, which is fantastic because that'll actually give us more time for the session. But if you haven't done that and you're looking at the mural right now, the first step in this process is to basically think of a COVID-19 related issue that involves education in any aspect. And what you want to do is use the gray cards here, double click on one of them and start your thought with the question of how might we. So what this is meant to do is it's meant to speculate, and I'll zoom people into where I'm at so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. How might we starts the conversation around possibilities without coming to conclusions. So when it comes to education, you're really asking the question to speculate for the next step, which is about ideation. So to give you an example of how this works, for education, it could be, how might we, let's see, how might we use social media to increase the messaging around prevention? So there's a lot of websites that have a lot of basics and so on, but sometimes the frequency and the frequency of the message matters more, or could matter more. So this is one possibility. But we have a ton of great cards here. I would recommend that you don't start new ones just because if last time I think we had 70 people in the mural. We don't want to saturate the space to the point where we're sorting a lot of cards. So for now, take some time if you're on the mural to double click on an open gray card and ask the question, how might we, related to COVID-19 and education? There is no right question or wrong question. This is just kind of exploring the space. So I'll give 3 minutes for this, or until we fill out all of the cards that we see here. If you do have any questions or have any issues with working with the mural, put those in chat and then I can address them directly. And I will also full screen what I'm seeing here and zoom in a bit more so that folks on YouTube can see this. By the way, drink rules are in effect, so not many people are watching. So if you want to have a beverage next to you while you're doing this, it is encouraged and recommended. If it needs to be heated up, feel free to walk to a microwave or a stove, but not both, and heat up what you got. You know, random thought, that picture makes it seem like the coronavirus is a chewy gummy.
Hi,
that I
Robot.
know.
How do I get access to typing? Or should
Are you able to double click on any of the cards, Mardia, to edit them? If not, you can try refreshing your browser, and that may work.
okay.
Sometimes Mural just needs a kickstart to kind of get it going. Okay, we have a few cards left, about a minute left as well. And I'll highlight, we have 2 open spots up here. I'll just put borders on them so you can see where they are in case you need extra room after we get done with the bottom, just in case. Okay, so if you're currently typing on a card, wrap that up. And what the rest of us can do is take a look at, I'm going to go into my view right here. I'll just basically summon everyone to what I'm doing here. Take a look at what everyone's done. And what you want to do is, this is just a quick scan. See if you can find any duplicates. So as you're reading these and consuming what they say on the cards, we're going to take a minute to kind of like look those over. If there are 2 where you could reasonably make the argument that one of them should be removed and the other one should stay, what you want to do is essentially select both cards. And then in Mural, there's like a little sub menu that comes up above the cards themselves. About 9 options over is the color option. And I'm showing this in the share. Just basically make both of those cards like the same color so that I can kind of put a focus on them. And then I'll just briefly review both and see if they need to be, if one needs to go. So just take about 30 seconds, look over all the cards and what people have done and what people have put in, and see if there's something where they're so similar where you can go, you know what, one of them can probably be put on the bus and sent home. Yes, I made a school analogy or school joke or analogy. How might we find ways to get food and basic necessities to those less fortunate? How might we help deliver food to the needy? That's possible.
You don't have access, Robot.
Oh, who doesn't? Is this Mardea?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When you go into the mural, what happens?
It's not even letting me see the mural.
Does it
but
say
I could see the screen that you're sharing.
But it says you don't have access?
It's not, I haven't even seen that I don't have access yet.
It just doesn't allow you to edit anything.
No.
But can you see the mural while I'm seeing here within the browser or just in the share?
I can see the share one, the screen.
Okay. Can you do me a favor and take a screenshot of what you're seeing on your side and then sending that over to me in email, and then I can take a look at that.
Okay.
So the 2 yellows that are here, I think that probably the one up here could be removed, or at least like taken out, because it looks like they're both the same. So in this instance, I'll basically make the executive decision and say, okay, this one's going down. Now let's do something different where we're doing some crowdsourcing. So how might we deliver information and instruction to all people, students, regardless of internet access? And how might we find a better mix of online versus offline education? How might we improve distance learning for school children to keep up? All good to basically highlight. I think all 3 are different dimensions of the same topic. I wouldn't necessarily make an argument that one has to be removed over another. How might we promote health and exercise while asking students to be online? How might we educate people working from home to maintain a healthy work-life balance? Similar, but I wouldn't make the argument that one can be eliminated versus the other. How might we ensure that we learn the right lessons from this pandemic as soon as it's finished? And how might we consolidate learnings from COVID-19? They're very, very similar. I'm going to leave them for now. But they're so close. It's a toss up. How might we find a better mix of volume of education? How much distance learning for school children to keep up? Similar. Wouldn't take it either out. How many we feel teachers feel like heroes? So one goes in a key worker, someone's heroes. They're similar. Teachers, they're worth. Yeah. So they're all in the same vein. So it's good to basically highlight them. How might we ensure every student has access to broadband? How might we ensure e-learning for kids who don't have sufficient equipment, laptop? Kind of both on the supply side. Both are different dimensions of it, but good that they're highlighted. And better ways to explain the pandemic to children. Youngsters and students realize not to joke. Same thing. Okay. Yeah, it's in the same thing. So here's an example of what you can do in an online session to figure out what the crowd is looking for. So I'm going to summon everyone again, and we're going to do a little small exercise here. So what I'm going to be looking at are these two here. So I'm going to put a border on them real fast. These are light purple. What I want you to do is to take your mouse or your cursor, and what you want to do is select the sticky, or not sticky, but the digital card that you feel should stay between the two purples here. So if you feel that how might we support teachers in the online world should stay, you put your mouse over it. If you think how might we get scared teachers, analog teachers up to speed with online lecturing, you put your mouse over there. And it looks like between the two of them, got about, yeah, the majority think that that one top should stay. So I'm going to take this one out. Yeah, I think for time purposes, we'll go ahead and keep going. So that's an example of where you can kind of get everyone's opinion on which one should be going. So what we'll do next is we're going to do a voting session on the cards that are still here. You'll have to look at the color of the cards to recognize that certain ones are similar, and you'll have to factor that into your voting. But what you're going to be voting for is the question that you'd like to carry forward and start thinking about some ideas about, so that you're going to be moving forward in a way where you'll be showcasing, or we'll be basically moving this particular how might we into an ideation phase that will kind of inform the rest of this process. So so basically you're voting on the one that you'd like to kind of focus on for the rest of our session. Since we have about 20 people and it looks like we have about 40, 50 stickies, I'm going to give everyone, let's say, I'll give them 8 votes. So if you've never done this in Mural, I'll start a voting session. This is for the how might we. You're basically going to be voting for one card that you've, well, not put all right, let me do a reset. In this voting session for how might we, you're going to place your votes on different cards you find appealing. You can put your vote on more than one card if you want to. It's totally up to you, but usually I encourage 1 vote per card. And you're going to be putting your votes on what I'm showing in my screen here. Any particular card, it can be a colored card or a gray card, but put your vote on something that you feel like a how might we question that you would like to move forward. You can click on a card to vote on it, shift click to remove the vote, and no one's going to be able to see your cursor or see the votes that you put on these cards. But it's totally up to you in terms of where you put these votes. So let me just check the chat real fast. Okay, we're good. So Mardia, I'll also look at what you're doing after I see where the votes are kind of summarizing up. So right now, we have a cat that's pretty much ahead of the pack with the bird and a horse right behind. I usually call these out because everyone's an anonymous animal and just seeing who gets finished in the top 3. There's no rush, just for fun. So cat's got 1 more vote, trying to figure out where that goes. Everybody else is kind of looking over all the cards. I'll pause my share, Mardia, see if I can go to my email and see if I can help you out. I'm not seeing it. Okay. Looks like I have a bear. Well, now everyone's finishing up. I'll just leave it alone. For those of you who don't vote, that show like 8 votes, I usually wait in a digital online session till all of the votes there's no movement, meaning that people just stop voting, or at least the people that voted who wanted to vote do vote. I just wait for that moment before kind of ending a voting session. But for now, it looks like there's plenty of people that are trying to figure out where they want to put their votes. Mardea, did you send that screenshot along for me to look at?
Finally, just got in now.
Okay, great. Let me know if you still have issues.
Okay.
Hello, Mark. Nice to see you here. Okay, we're a little over halfway done in the voting. Looks like we have about 5 or 6 people that are still putting their votes on. If you're looking in Mural, you should see a voting. It should say voting session HMW in progress, kind of like how I show on the share. You can actually look and watch people vote as they vote. Okay. I'll give about 1 more minute for voting. I have a little time timer here. Actually, I won't use that because it looks like we were just about finished up. Okay, so it looks like voting is getting close to done. We just have a snake and a cat that are putting in their votes. Sea lion put in a few, but then stalled, and the lobster's got 1 vote in. So if the votes basically don't move, or there's not anyone voting after about 30 seconds, then I'll close it down, end the voting session, see what everyone selected, and we'll move on to ideation. The different colors note me just for this particular exercise, Mark, they're only to show where cards have similar themes or potential duplications. But that was just to make sure that when people were putting down their votes, they knew that if there was a variation they liked more than another, they could choose. Okay. So we're going to end voting in about 10 seconds. So if you have any votes you want to place down, place them soon. And 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, we'll end the votes. We'll see how everyone came around. And it looks like we have 1 that had the most votes and the most unique voters. So how might we deliver information instruction to all people, students, regardless of internet access? And there were some other ones that were in 2nd place that were tied. So there's these as kind of a foundation, but for the purposes of this exercise, we'll move forward with that particular one that had 11 votes. And I'm going to take the content of that particular one, leave it there, and move it over to this how might we. So in this particular step, the next one that we're doing, step 2, and I will summon everyone over so you can look at what I'm doing. You're going to look at this how might we, the question that we have, and you're really going to be going into the cards here and putting in and as many ideas that come to mind that seem to answer that question. They can be bold ideas, they can be crazy ideas, they can be practical ones. It's totally up to you. But like before, we have a constraint of just these digital cards to choose from. So it's going to be first come, first serve on the idea front. So when you're ready, go ahead and double click on a card and try to answer the question that's posed here. How might we deliver information and instruction to all people and students regardless of internet access? Go ahead and put your ideas as they come into your mind. If we have a slowdown, I'll put a timer on it, but for now, go ahead and fill them out, and I have a feeling we'll probably get done in about 2 or 3 minutes in terms of ideas. But if we need to put that time constraint on, I will. But for now, we won't. And again, the ideas can be off the wall, they can be crazy, they can be interesting. Go for things that seem to be like a gut feeling that you think would work, or even examples that you've seen already out there that could work really, 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 really well as an example. And I will emphasize there are no right or wrong answers with this. And while you're doing this, I will be right back. We'll give about 2 more minutes for this. Thanks, Krister. So somebody made the comment that the microphone sounds really good. And it's a microphone that I think is actually about 12 years old. I got this back when I was with the Usability Professionals Association. Got it at a fire sale, actually, but works pretty well.
I don't know, Rob, do you see the questions in the Q&A?
I don't, because I'm sharing my screen. I don't see those. Can you
Okay,
tell me what they are?
there's one. Hi, Robert, how do you determine the quantity of votes to give out? Maybe something to answer.
A simple equation, if you don't have a lot of people, so now I did an estimate, is that you take the number of people that are participating and the number of cards that you have, and it's just a division problem. So say there is 49 cards here, and hypothetically, let's say if there's 10 people that are part of the session, then it's just 49 divided by 10, so about 5. And sometimes if you feel generous, you can move it up to 6, so people like options. But that's usually the equation I use. For really, really, really large groups, the maximum amount of votes I usually give is 15 at the most. I try to keep it around 12 to 15 at the very high end. Anything more than that, people are just kind of throwing votes where it seems to make sense.
What is like the biggest group you would facilitate in Mura? That's the first question from me.
Oh, the biggest one I've ever done? It was 174 people.
Okay, wow. And Mura stands that? That's possible?
That was that was one of those things where it didn't quite stand up. So we had to break it up into two or three different mural boards, which was a little bit of an audible, but it worked out pretty well. But yeah, it was a lot. So if you're working on a card that says bus rides by with announcements on loudspeaker, could you click anywhere outside of that card to deselect it? And for the person that is, I think it's in a Dove, that's doing the collaborate with a famous star singer and cover world most popular song to give an information was, there you go, perfect. I only say that just because we have to transfer everything down to a lower part over here. So now that we have all of the different ideation components, we're going to take this and we're going to bring it down into some affinity diagramming. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here. So give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail and move this out of the way and bring this down into the category section here. Okay. Now we're going to do a little bit of affinity diagramming. If you've never done it before, it's fairly straightforward. I'll call everyone over to where I'm at and I'll explain what it is. So up here in the gold cards, you have everything that says category, 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 category. And everything down here is what you just finished doing in terms of ideas. What you're going to do is take 1 or 2 of these cards. Let's say hypothetically, these 2 cards are very, very similar. You're going to drag them up to a category that's open, or if it's already filled in, you can put it right underneath. And you just change the category out to something like trucks or something that basically explains what those 2 cards are underneath. And that's a way of basically organizing the cards that are down here. The thing with this is that anyone who's on the mural can do this as part of a group process. So go ahead and take a couple of gray cards that you think are similar, look up in the categories to see if anyone's actually added something ahead of time that would fit it and put it there. If they haven't, go ahead and double click on the category card to put in a category name. If you find that you've run out of category cards, but you have something that's unique that you want to put in its space, simply select a category card like this. And usually on the Mac, it's a Command D to duplicate it, and you'll make another category card right to the right of it. So that's a way of kind of expanding it out. Best practices, if you have a category that has 10 or more cards in it, there's a good chance that that particular category can be subdivided into something else. So if you have something that's really long on the tooth, it's probably because that category is too broad and you need to kind of pare it down a bit. So no timer for this one. Just go ahead and sort the cards in a way that you see fit. This is a group exercise, so have at it. If you have any questions, do let me know. I will say that if people are looking for discussion, we're going to have that at the end of step 3. And basically use that, have a little bit of discussion about what we did before we move on to step 4. So if you're patiently waiting to kind of discuss what's been done, that'll be the time we're gonna do that. And Alex, thank you for letting me know about the Q&A. If you do see something else that's posted there, or if people ask questions and I don't see them, feel free to speak up.
Actually, there is another question from Rodrigo. Robert, did you ever did an LDJ to define something like a North Star metric? North Star metric.
I didn't, I wouldn't use that construct for that particular purpose. I would actually just use something simple as a note and vote. If it's you're talking about a metric that you would use for, say, like OKRs, like objective and key results, and you want to figure out what the proper objective is, you could do an XYZ kind of example where you're doing X is the percentage of what you want Y your audience to do when they do Z. And then once you kind of have a few people draft those up, do a note and vote and see what seems to make sense to the group, you know, after a little bit of discussion, I would say. That would be my only thought with that. It's like, what would be less time that you're asking from people doing it that way? And I will mute my microphone because I'm gonna make a lot of noise over here, unwrapping something. There's a question from Valerie that asks, excuse me, when you do a sprint with a big group online, do you leave the microphones open? And the answer is no. Usually mute everybody by default. And then if people want to get on the mic and say something or ask a question, you allow specific times within a sprint to do so. Most of the time, if you enter into a discussion phase where it's part of the process and you need to have everyone's mic open, then sure, you can do that. I recommend having an app like Crisp, which is a background noise canceling application, to be in service while you are kind of, you're in a sprint. If you were in a place like a cafe or someplace where it's really noisy, just because it's something where you don't have to ask the facilitator to mute your microphone because there's too much going on in the background. Something that Susanna pointed out as well is that for general rule for voting is you take 1/3 of the number of cards for dot voting. So you just basically do it like that and just take the cards themselves rather than participants. So that's another way of kind of parsing out the votes. Well, some people, Susanna, no, you're right. Nobody should be in a cafe right now in the pandemic. That's true. That was a bad example I put in there. So the name of the app again is Crisp, K-R-I-S-P. And that works for both desktop and for phone, for smartphone, both. And try it out. It's not for everybody, but it works really well in some instances, especially if you have like 5 or 6 kids running around the background. It does help. Although, for one call, we had a kid like just do a massive wreck into some toys, and you heard the siren scream call. Crisp couldn't handle that, so it has its limitations. Okay, we're wrapping up. It looks like all the cards seem to be in place. Similar to what we did before is that you will look at the different cards here under the categories and highlight particular ones that are very, 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 very similar. I won't read them off like I did last time. I'll just kind of silently review them. But what I will do is if I see 2 that can make the argument for one going away, we will do the crowdsourcing vote and kind of go down that route. So I'll just take a minute for everyone to kind of review the cards, take a look at how they're sorted. Let's go ahead and highlight things that are very similar, and we'll go ahead and review the ones that seem to be very similar in nature. I'll go over here to a couple that are they're highlighted in pink. Yeah, so both deal with celebrity, but just different. In the pink ones for different different audiences or different types of celebrities. Ship the instructions, mail the book. Yep. Public radio. Okay. Public radios, public television stations. Probably different, just different mediums. I think that's public radios is a traditional channel is X radio. Okay. Yeah. So number 1 and number 2 probably could be in blue. Could be arguably 1 could be eliminated. So let's put this to like a quick vote. If you think public radio should stay, put your mouse over top this blue one right here. If you think traditional channels X radio should stay as a descriptor, then put your mouse over there between the top and the bottom. And it looks like traditional channels is winning out, so this one is going off. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's take a look.
There's another repeated one for television.
Oh, for public television stations. This radio and television seem to be 2 different formats. That's why I chose 1 and 2 versus those.
Yeah, okay.
SMS texting, text-based assignments and lessons via an SMS. One's a little bit more detailed than the other one is. One's more ambiguous. We could basically put it to a quick vote. So I'm looking at the purple one, summon everyone again. Put your mouse over on the SMS texting if you want to keep that one, or if you want to put on text-based assignments and lessons via SMS, put your mouse over that. Give it 5 seconds. Yeah, it looks like that second one's going to stay. So that first one goes out. Let's move all of these up a little bit. We have 3 under hardware. Let's take a review of these real fast. So the first one's general. Second one's slightly more specific. You're already putting your mouses over that. Okay, fine. If you want to think that build an education laptop with internet access built in like Kindle should stay, put it on the second one here. If you think everyone gets a Kindle with download information at library schools, put your mouse over that one. Looks like that first one is staying. Okay. I know, Gia, you like that one, but it's going to go away. I'm sorry. I only know that because your cursor has your name on it. Oops. I think pretty good to go. I think I'm at Suva teaching iPads with teachers in mind. Okay, over here on the orange, on these 2, I'm going to border them so that you can kind of put some focus on it. Make iPads suitable for teacher community and iPads designed with teachers in mind. Put your mouse over which one you think should stay. It looks like that first. Okay, move that up. Take the border off. And let's see. It's over the right. We'll do a few more and then we'll bring it to a vote. Ship the instructions like ecom, make a mail book to everyone. Get your graphics door to door, chain emails, prints. Yeah, just one's more specific around distribution. Okay, let's do this one for orange. So there's 3 that are orange. Let's eliminate the one. let's do this. Let's put your mouse over the one that you think should not be there. So between universal internet service, massive internet structure effort, and grant every student free internet access, put your mouse over the one you think we should eliminate. That should not be part of the 3. So 4, everyone, yeah, I think they all stay. Just because all of them seem to basically have an even number of arrows on them. So let's keep them all in the same space and just be mindful of it when you vote. We'll do it that way. Oop. Thank you for that, everyone. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. Let's go ahead and give this a vote to see which ideas have the most appeal. Now, the one thing you don't want to do for this voting session is vote on the top cards. Don't vote on the categories, just vote on the color cards that you see below as well as the gray cards. Let's see, we'll do like what Susanna did before. We'll do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 51. So about 50. Let's give everyone 5 votes. 5 votes. You vote on the top 5 ideas you see here. You kind of can kind of disseminate it a bit, and we'll see what comes out on top. So let me get my Zoom panel out of the way so I can actually do this. And we're voting on ideas. Go ahead and click on a card that appeals to you. Shift click if you want to remove your particular vote. And remember that no one's going to be able to see your votes as you put them on. So they're going to be all anonymous. Remember, don't vote on the categories at all. Just vote on the cards below the categories.
Rob, there is another question in, or there was a question in the Q&A, but was taken away. Regarding Mural and Co., can you recommend some online tutorial on how to make the best use of the tool? Voting was so cool. Thanks in advance, from Evelina. And Susanna already answered a little bit.
Oh, okay. How to make best use of the Mural tool?
Yes. And if there's which online tutorial you can recommend to make the best use of this tool.
I mean, Mural has put a ton of like video tutorials on YouTube for free. That would be my first kind of place to go.
That was what I had put in there. I think going straight to Mural and starting to do that. And then I'll put in a plug for get in and practice, because the best way to learn how to use it is to do it. And so get connected with Robert if you're not, and do GVDS, and that will get you practice building and using. And it's a great training tool as well as good content. So got to use it.
And that's, yeah. And plus if you use Mural, it's similar to coding in a way, in that once you learn a particular language, it's not too hard to like jump into a different whiteboarding tool like Teams or Miro or something else, just because the visual metaphors are the same. It's just a different way of going about it. I prefer Mural primarily for its tool set and the tools that allows me as a facilitator to kind of manage these online sessions. So that's just my preference. I've been with them for 2.5 years, so that's probably another factor. But I'm there. I don't switch for a reason. We're wrapping up votes. See how things are kind of vetting out a bit. And while the votes are coming in, if anyone on the panelist side would like to make any comments or questions, now would be the appropriate time to do it. So anything you'd like to say, observe about the session so far that you'd like to let everyone know about? You can come off microphone if you'd like. And if not, that's okay too.
I noticed if you refresh your Mural board, it will give you another anonymous animal.
That's correct. It's because it's an anonymous link and it's not tied to any particular name, then it's basically tied to the session that you log in with. So if you refresh, you'll lose that session and become another animal. So if you're very picky about the type of anonymous animal you are, you would much rather be a koala than a snail. Or if you're very much about pandas rather than shrimps, then you just keep refreshing the page until you get an animal you like. But that's totally up to you. It's personal preference. Okay. We have a few more people voting. We'll wrap things up in about 20 seconds. And please tell me if my chewing comes across on the microphone, because I would hate to be that person that eats very close if I'm snacking on something. You can tell me in chat or just call me out on the mic.
There is another tip from Mark Vandyuk in the Q&A. Backstage pass of Moral on YouTube has great tutorial videos. I guess that's the same that we already said.
That's correct. That's very good to point out, Mark. Plus, Haley Temple has been putting out 1-minute mural recommendations around different things related to remote work. That's been really, really good. All you have to do is find her on LinkedIn, and she probably has all of her material there. They're getting a playlist together on the mural side, but if you want access to them now, her last name is Temple, and the first name is Haley. Okay, 5 more seconds, and we're going to close it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put that vote in. I saw you switch it out. Hurry it up, Shrimp. Come on. I'm about to hit the end vote. Put it where you want. Right. Here we go. Let's see where all of our votes vetted out. So it looks like we have a couple of them. So we have one that says build an education laptop with internet access built in, kind of like a Kindle. We have 3 that look like they have, one has, so one is universal internet service, another one is hands-on gamified UNA approach. Then there's one person that put 5 votes on print on grocery store receipts. So somebody was very, very enthusiastic about that idea. But I think going forward, we're going to take these top 3 and kind of look at the outcomes for each. So give me 1 second while I transfer those over. And again, feel free to make any comments or questions you like while I'm kind of putting this in place. This particular part takes about a minute to do.
Alexandra Schiffkiss just shared where the webinars are for Moral in the questions and the link. So if you want to have them, click on that.
Say that one more time, Alex.
Alexandra Schiffke just put in where are the webinars on the Moral website, so people just can click on it and see the webinars.
Okay. If it's not in chat, I can populate it in a second. Okay. So this next step is concentrating on the ideal outcomes for the ideas. Now, this is an additional step we added in last time that seemed to bring a little bit of focus into what somebody saw as like the long-term goals, so to speak, or it's another way of thinking about it, where you have the original question we had about delivering information and instructions to all people and students regardless of internet access. We have these 3 ideas, with the blue one being the one that had garnered the most votes, and universal internet service and hands-on gamified community approach being second and third. What you're going to do here in the ideas and outcomes, and this is a short exercise, you're going to think, from your perspective, you're going to think of the ideal outcome for each of these particular ideas. So if we built an education laptop with internet access built in, what would be an outcome that you would love to see from this? Now, this can be ambitious, this could be practical. Again, same thinking as with ideation, but you're really concentrating on the outcome of what you're considering. And the way to do that is to double click on a card that corresponds in the same space as the idea and put in the outcome that you wish to see from that. Same thing with universal internet service, and same thing with hands-on gamified community approach. What would be an outcome for you personally that you would like to see from this endeavor if you were part of creating whatever the solution or product or service was related to that? So this one I am going to time box, and I'm going to put it to about 3 minutes. Go ahead and put your particular outcomes in these spaces. We will stop the timer if all boxes are basically filled in, and we'll move forward with the ones that seem to have after we do a little short voting round, we'll move it into the next phase, which is kind of looking at the interest and the impact of each. And my screen will be moving quite a bit because I'm going to be transferring some of the information well in advance for people to look at. And for reference, the reason why we look at outcomes is that, at least in previous sessions, that seems to influence the thinking around how someone will approach the interest and the impact, especially if the outcome seems to be something that's either appealing or not as appealing. And for Krister, you asked, is there any way to easily find the highly voted stickies? Within Mural, if you look in the share, the facilitator side, you can look at the show votes here in the panel, in the top panel. And on previous like votes that you've done in other sessions, there should be colored dots appropriate to the vote. And all you have to do up here in the highlight votes is just select which ones you want to focus on. And Mural should pop up those votes for you to kind of take a look at. Okay, we have a few seconds left. Looks like all of the outcomes are filled in. That was fast. You did in 3 minutes. Congratulations. Okay, no need to kind of review everything that's here for duplications. What we're going to do is do a quick vote, and you have one vote for each particular thing. So you want to vote on one outcome in this section here for the blue idea. For the gold idea, one vote only in any of the gray cards here. And then for the green idea, one vote only in that one. So everyone will have 3 votes for this particular round. And you won't be voting on the idea itself, but just put the votes on the gray cards. And remember, 1 vote per section. Click on a card to vote and shift click to remove your vote. But pick the one outcome that seems to be the most appealing for you personally. And Rabbit already knew what he was voting for. Rabbit's been fast, true to form of the name. Those votes have been going quick for Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for those who are waiting or just observing, and you're in the Zoom or you're in YouTube, feel free to post questions in the mural itself. Sorry, not mural, sorry. Post questions in Zoom or in YouTube in the chat, and we'll pick those up or answer them during these breaks like we're waiting on for now for people voting. We have a few votes left. An interesting story, Julia. Thanks for sharing that. I was reading that right before we got into voting.
Robert, how do we know that it's really recording all the votes? Because I've voted and I've re-entered as a different animal and it's still not showing that my animal has voted. But when I go in, I can see where I've ticked my votes.
Sometimes that's a glitch in Mural where we've had it where people have -13 votes and for some reason it just doesn't count correctly. So that's a bit of a bug in Mural. So that does happen. As long as you're seeing your votes being counted in your interface, those votes will eventually be included in the tally.
Just want to be able to know how to reassure people who are participating because we don't want someone thinking their votes don't count.
Yeah, blame it all on Mural.
Okay. They're counting,
Say it's one of the things they're packaging in with their rendering engine updates is the votes tend to be a little bit scattered. When it's like 150 people or 100 people, that's when it starts to get really interesting, especially when it tries to refresh a bit. Okay, we got a C line that's trying to figure out their last vote. I'll give that about 10 seconds and we'll close the voting down. 4, 3. There we go. All right, let's end the voting session, see where everything vetted out. And I'll close this down because the voting results here don't really tell the story. We're going to take a look at the actual votes here. So it looks like for build an education laptop with internet access built in, the impact is every child has access to education from anywhere in the world. The universal internet service has 2, which is interesting. Equal opportunity by treating internet access a human right, make internet services as cheap to nothing. So we're going to come back to that in a second. Hands-on gamified community approach is higher engagement and motivation. So we're going to put that there. So what we're going to do as a fun little exercise is I'm going to take these 2 that are tied, and we're going to do something that we sometimes do in these sessions, and we're going to have them compete. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and we've done a little bit of this already. So let me go ahead and center, and then I'll summon everyone to what I'm looking at. So you've ever come into a situation in your session where you have a couple people. Yeah, let's bring this back down here. I didn't lock it down. That's the reason why. Hang on. Okay. 1 second. Let me go ahead and organize all this and go to Rupert's, and let's lock it down. Okay. So in a session like this, sometimes you have 2 or 3 cards that have the same amount of votes, and you have to determine which one seems to have more appeal by the group. And the way to do this is basically using something of a scale, an x-axis scale, that basically measures interest between the 2 or 3 or 4 that you're considering. So the way this works is you basically take this, create equal opportunity by treating internet access as a human right. And you're going to, like you did with your voting on the cards, you're going to take your mouse cursor and put it somewhere on the line. So for this particular one, how much of an interest does it have? Is it really high? Is it just in the center, or is it really low? And we're going to take the kind of the average where everyone is and put that card where it goes. So for creating equal opportunity by treating internet access as a human right, where's this? Hey, somebody dragging it already. Let the facilitator facilitate, please. What are you doing? All right, fine. It goes there. For make internet services as cheap to nothing, what you want to do is consider where this kind of fits in relation to this one we just placed down. So put your mouse over on somewhere on the interest line where you think it goes. Panda thinks it's really important, so does Shrimp. He's not moving, but the majority of people think it's probably around here. Right around there would be good. So create equal opportunity by treating internet access as a human right seems to be the one that's kind of edging out between the 2. So we go back up here, and we're going to go ahead and just put a border on this. Right. So one last transfer. We're going to go over here and put the outcomes into the proposed outcomes into each of these, and that'll factor into our decision for this next step, which is step 4. And we're running pretty good on time. These next few are fairly quick. Okay. So for this next step here, what you want to do while I am talking away is to go down into these blue dots here and put your name in these dots going from top to bottom. So as Alexander's doing, you start with the blue dot, then the gold dot, and the green dot, and put your name in each of those. So find a row that just says name, double click on it, and then just put in your name like Alex or Lisa or Gisela or whatever. This is basically preparing for what you're about to do. So you're going to be taking a look at, and I'll summon everyone here while you're doing the names, is you're going to be looking at the how might we, the ideas and their proposed outcomes. So you read it as build an education and laptop with internet access built in. The ideal outcome is every child has access to education from anywhere in the world. You want to look at these idea outcome combos as, would I be interested in getting involved with this if it was a project, or would I rather not and not get involved, or and what kind of impact would that kind of outcome have from your perspective? So you're going to be doing it on two different evaluations: your personal interest and the impact you think that outcome would have if it was realized. And the way that I do that is based on the circles you just put in here, and I'm going to take Tomas's circle as an example. You're going to want it to go in the start here in the center of this interest impact matrix. And you're going to look at it from the perspective of, okay, for the blue idea about, and I'll review it again, it's for building an education laptop with internet access built in, and every child has access to education. How does that square in terms of my interest? If I have a high interest in this, I'm going to basically put this bubble up all the way, probably it's about here for Tomas. He's probably, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now, oh, sorry, take that back. I went on the wrong scale. So interest is the x-axis. So he's going to basically put it over on here if it has a high interest for him. If he thinks that it has a really, that one has a high impact, then he's also going to put this all the way to the top up here and put it somewhere in this space. But if he thinks that it's going to have less of an impact, it's like, no, not really. It's going to go south. It's going to basically go down somewhere in here. But that's up to Tomas in terms of where he wants to put all of those votes. And everyone has the same amount of votes here. So for each idea, go ahead and put that colored dot where you think it reflects your interest and impact for each of these ideas, or each of those idea outcome sets. Excuse me. There's no judging, so you can basically put things in the forget about it stage, and that's perfectly fine. We're just trying to gauge interest from the people that are taking part in this mural. So again, give it a shot. Go ahead and drag those dots where they make sense to you, and I will take this this that particular line seems to be attached to a dot. Yeah, you can get rid of that. That's fine. I'll go ahead and lock it back up. Okay, I think we're getting close. So as a facilitator, what you want to look for in this is, you can look at this in terms of like a heat map. So for some reason that's not locked down. Okay. You want to look at this in terms of a kind of a general heat map on where the group is basically looking at. So if I look at this, out of all three, it looks like the original voting that we had on the ideas is kind of making itself known, where it looks like the blue one seems to have a higher concentration of both interest and impact up here. And then gold basically has probably arguably in second place. And then green is kind of like, yeah, it's okay. Like it's all over the place, where Khalil is telling us, nope, I am definitely not having anything about that. No higher ed engagement, nope, nothing. So so this next 15 minutes or the remainder of the time here is going to be about discussion. And I think instead of trying to do all three, since blue seems to be the one that most people are going towards, I'll point out these next two steps as basically a matter of consequence, or a matter of like process. So typically what would happen is, since this is going to be the idea outcome that seems to be vetted out the most, as a facilitator, you would basically take the names that are kind of in this quadrant over here and put them in the high interest and impact and kind of build that out here. You don't have to do that. That's just part of me on the facilitator side. But what is part of the conversation that happens in the discussion is, for the build an education laptop with internet access build in like Kindle, you kind of have to start exploring the questions around what you would need to know in order to be able to achieve this particular outcome, who you should talk to achieve this particular outcome, and what would you like to do in terms of, if you were to do a potential sprint, what would be where you would like to place things. Now, this doesn't need to be done in this session. This is just to showcase where it goes if you were actually doing a virtual lightning decision jam for, say, like the Global Virtual Design Sprint, where you're starting to put down some potential directions you can go to find more information. But I'll also highlight the last step here, where if you want to network with people that have been in the session, so you can take the time in between now and the top of the hour, you can cut and paste your particular LinkedIn profile and put this in here. And this is a way of kind of networking with other people that have been part of the session, whether you're on Zoom or YouTube. If this is something that inspires you or interests you, especially on the blue one, you can start a sprint brief, and I'll do that after the session is done for this and send it to everyone to see if people are interested. And then this is an option here because in May we're going to be doing the GVDS, and these are just links for you to reference. But for the rest of the session, we're concentrating just on the big picture thinking with this. So what I'll do is I'll be calling out some panelists to get their perspective on this particular idea outcome mix and see what y'all think. In the meantime, while this discussion is happening, feel free to explore or input anything in here that in this blue section that you want to, or on the right-hand side, you can put your network over there, your network link over there for people to basically get in contact with you or network with you if you'd like. So the first question I'm gonna ask for Gia. It's just simply because, hang on, if I got the name right.
Yes.
No, just making sure. So I'm looking here, and I think your name was here.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat sparing there because I gotta look. But what did you think of the idea outcome with the blue one, with the blue idea, in terms of like how it was addressing the how may we? What was going through your mind when this kind of came into connection? Do you think this is
So I like the idea. So I was thinking built an education laptop with internet access built in here. So I saw the idea and I thought, okay, it's a really good idea. But then the challenge would be, would people really have access to it? I mean, how would you make that everyone would actually be able to have the laptop? It would have to be free if we want to really go to people that don't have resources.
True. Alex,
So
what about?
that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, just like how can it actually be achieved? That was the one thing that came in.
It's like it's a good idea. How can it be feasible, particularly focusing on the underprivileged areas that would be able? I mean, would you partner up with the government, and the government would make sure that the remote villages and the underprivileged areas would have it, or how would we make this doable?
Does anyone on the panelist side know of a composite where people have done this before, where they've given low income laptops to people for to have education and internet access built in? I know there's like several examples that I've seen over the years, but
I know about smartphones that have been given to refugees during the 2015 crisis in refugee crisis in Europe. So when they came to Germany to access certain basic state services, they were given a mobile phone, and internet access was built in so that they were reachable for the authorities and so on.
Okay.
Portugal gave it for the elementary school children, a laptop with internet.
It's at least in the United States. In the States, it's a lot more accessible, at least from what I have. I mean, their Chromebooks are popular at least in public areas, but they limit them to like who can actually get a hold of them.
Mm.
What about you, Mardia? What was on your mind when you kind of went through this idea, and why did you vote for it the way you did? Are you there?
Well, same thing like she just pointed out. If the laptop could be given to kids or the less privileged ones, maybe even having access to grants, like maybe money to purchase it, grants from the government to have access to it. So that would be really positive.
Yeah.
So,
Lisa, you were also someone that voted on this pretty highly. What was going through your mind with this? Are you there? Are you mute?
Yes, okay. I was muting myself. Yeah, it would be nice to have. I just don't know how this is technically feasible. And still it raises the question how we would get internet access into these devices, even if they have the access in there, but how is the service going to be? So I'm not sure how this is going to work technically, unfortunately.
Okay. And you were also somebody that voted pretty highly on universal internet service and creating equal opportunity by treating internet access as a human right.
Yeah.
What was appealing about that for you?
Well, in these times, my absolute horror scenario is if they cut out the internet, you know, this would be as bad as cutting off water and food supply for me personally. And I can only barely imagine, you know, how it must be in an area where you're already disadvantaged. And then on top, you don't have access to education through the internet, especially in times like these. So I think it should be treated as a human right by now, especially with this crisis. I don't know if this is a super controversial opinion, but yeah.
Okay. I think for the last few minutes, to kind of curb the discussion a little bit, what I'd like to do as a last example is for just the blue section here, and I'll put a little bit of focus on it. For what we need to know, who we should talk to, and what would you like to do, for everyone that's in the mural right now. For the boxes that are still available, put down what you think, at least with build an education laptop with internet access build, what you think we would need to know and who we should actually talk to. And when you put in these names, think of, for the who we should talk to, it's fine if you put Betsy DeVos or Bill Gates, but think of like an individual or person that's in your network, somebody that you may want to reach out to as a subject matter expert that may be like more accessible. That way it seems like something that if you were to take this on potentially as like a challenge or something that would be interesting, you know who to talk to specifically. Now, I'm going to take out Bill Gates and Betsy because I've had Bill Gates on speed dial, but I don't think he's really going to answer me for this particular thing. The same thing is what we need to know. Take it from the perspective of what you would need to know and be armed with in order to be able to engage this particular problem. And this is just a sampling. This is not like kind of, you know, putting any kind of engagement expectation. This is just to start the conversation about what you would need to understand before you would get involved with this kind of endeavor. And also on this, for what you would like to do, this is more of a question around who needs to be at the table for this thing to really work. Does it need to be somebody who's like somebody who's very technical, understands computers, maybe has gone through similar programs for providing you know, digital tools for disadvantaged folks in different areas. Kind of just explore it as like a space. And we'll continue questioning until we get to the top of the hour. I think we have a few minutes left. Does anybody on the panel want to come off mic and maybe comment on what's been going on with this idea or the process? Anything you'd like to kind of comment about? Now would be probably be the time to do it. Oh, and people have been pointing out the one laptop per child project. And that was the one that was coming to mind when I was thinking about it. Americo says we did it in Portugal. I think the program is still alive. They export them to Argentina. Let's see. Kim says they're talking about getting Chromebooks to all Chicago public school students. And Rodrigo posted onelaptop.org. So there are examples of things out there. I think with this, you know, it was supposed to be kind of oriented towards COVID and getting information instruction to people as students. So there could be, the focus could be on a particular aspect of going digital with that. But, you know, at least there's examples to go by to see what kind of possibilities there are.
What I like, it's Alex, about this vision or this idea is that it is triggered by Corona and that it makes sense now to have that, but that the idea goes beyond that and even has a bigger picture and a bigger vision built in. So if that is triggered through Corona, then it will last even when the crisis is over and will have positive effects.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Thank you for that, Alex. Any other comments before we wrap things up today? Anything you'd like to say about the about the session or any impressions that you've had, any kind of improvements, anything you'd like to sound off with? If not, again, I would highly encourage you to put in your copy and paste your URL from LinkedIn into the space. Sometimes it's not rendering properly with Mural, which happens, but rest assured, if you put your link in here and people double click on it, they will be able to see it. Again, if what we did today in terms of this particular exercise inspired you to kind of move forward with it, I would put out an email later on along with the brief to say like, okay, this captured basically what was in the session. If there's something that interests you, you can move forward with it. If you want to sign up for the GVDS, then there are 3 links over here depending on who you kind of align with. If it's general, if you're a student, or if you're someone who's an alumni that has done a GVDS before but haven't signed up yet, all 3 of those basically lead to links that correspond to the sign up. But that's it. Hopefully this is something interesting that you enjoyed. This mural is available as a template in case you want to use it for your own organizations or you want to retrofit it for what you want to do. I'll be posting the examples or the results of this session online, and it is going to be on YouTube. Beyond that, feel free to send me feedback either in email or any kind of vehicle you'd like, and I'd be more than happy to take it. So last thing we will do before we leave is that for people on the panelist side, we, as is tradition, we always do kind of a group shot of people that were kind of approaching all this. So virtual laptops or otherwise, Alex, you're running out of stuff. You're just grabbing what you got. But go ahead and find something that's around you that you'd like to put in the picture. I really should do you know what? I'll do this. I wonder if my snap camera is actually functioning or not. Let's see. There we go. Right. Okay, so I'm going to do a time timer and do it that way. Ready? I'll do a count of 3. Let's see where we go with this. 1, 2, and Julia, no item, nothing at all, nothing. You don't have anything? Not even like a mug or like, all right, there you go. That's perfect. Ready? And Ed can just be a background. 1, 2, 3.
Oh.
There's a dog. There you go. That's perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for being part of this. Hopefully this is very educational and interesting. We are going to do it again on Thursday, but this one's going to be a different focus altogether. You all stay safe, wash your hands, stay the distance, and stay happy and healthy out there, okay? Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a good day too.